Well, hello everybody. Today I wanted to show you guys the project that I'm working on. It's a Houdini project. Let me go back to build. And the reason why I started using Houdini is because I wanted to switch from Blender to Houdini completely. And the transition is slow, but it's steady. And there's a myriad of reasons as to why I'm switching to Houdini. One of them is performance. Houdini can easily deal with millions of polygons. Blender, it doesn't. And not only that, but Blender, the moment you run simulations in Blender, you start to run into issues. There's a lot of things that I like about Blender, and the fact that it's free, it's a plus. However, using Houdini Apprentice, it's also free. So yeah, why not switch to Houdini? And yeah, I decided to make the jump, and I love it. I don't regret a single thing. So I wanted to show you guys the first project that I'm working on solo after watching some tutorials here and there and doing some practice. And this is what I came up with. I decided to model a Hearthstone card, animate it, and make it explode. When you discover a card in Hearthstone, it turns around and it does like a shockwave. This is what I tried to achieve here. So let me show you how I did this. So first of all, in Houdini we work with nodes, and it's even though it looks complicated, it's really not. So you start off with a box. There you go. And then you transform that box. Then you add group to polybevel it, and then you use a boolean to create the interior. And just to show you the final mesh, you merge it, and you have the foundation for the card there. You do the same thing with the all the decorations of the card. You start with a curve, and then you polywire the curve, and then you mirror it. You do the same thing with the rest of the decorations. You merge them, and there you go. And the good thing about this is that you can go back to any of these pieces, delete them or modify them. It's super it's great. It's very versatile. Now you can see we have some artifacts here. So I had to clean up my mesh, so I decided to drop down some blast nodes, delete those, and I merged it with the back of the card. These here, I decided not to modify these nor delete them because you will never see these, so there's no purpose of doing that. And then I decided to use a node to paint it. So where is it? Attribute paint. There you go. I decided, so basically, as you can see, it's not even finished. I couldn't bother adding more details to it simply because I wanted to see a fast render. For some odd reason, well, because I'm using the Apprentice version of Houdini, I cannot export meshes to Substance Painter to paint them, which is a shame. But to be honest, it's fine for visualization purposes, and for what I want to do, I think this looks great. When you add lighting and you use Karma to render this, I think it looks decent enough. So really what I'm using here is just 4 different colors. I'm using this yellow, this darker yellow, orange, brownish color, and 2 types of blue, and that's it. That's pretty much it. Originally what I wanted is to the heart, the center of the card. I wanted to make it emissive and blue and all that, but in the end I did not do that simply because I was lazy. This is the final card. That's how it looks. And then I decided to work on the simulation. So the simulation really is, and this is what I like about Houdini. In Houdini, when you simulate things, unlike Blender, it doesn't crash. And let me show you why. So in Blender, I was working on this small village, town, whatever you want to call it. And as you can see, it's all of it. I don't even have a million polygons on the screen, and it's very slow. Everything's baked in, by the way. This is baked and cached, saved to file, the tree and the grass, and yet everything is super, super slow. Look at that. Not only this, but look at this. See? It bugged out, and everything's baked in. So this is one of the reasons why, because it happens to me with the cloth simulation. It happens with a lot of things, and I don't like that. It's very unstable in that regard. However, there is a lot of pros to using Blender. Number one, it's free. Number two, Cycles. Look at this. Cycles is amazing. It creates amazing quality renders, provided you do some decent modeling, sculpting. As you can see, this is not the best. These are not the best looking rocks, but you know, I tried. And all in all, this doesn't look too bad. But it's just very hard to add any wind effect, any simulation effects in it. And really, I don't see this improving anytime soon in Blender. I mean, they release features over and over again, but I don't. It doesn't convince me. So that's why I decided to make the switch. Anyway, let's close this, and let's get back to Houdini. So the first simulation is a shockwave like this, like so. It explodes into a circle, and it slowly disappears. All the simulations, by the way, they come from this tube. You scatter some points on it, and then you do it. The second simulation is a straight circle. And the third simulation is a slightly rotated circle to the right with more fluctuations in it. There you go. So when you combine these together, there you go. And again, this is very stable. I mean, it's Houdini. It looks great. It looks great. At least for my taste as a beginner. So everything's done. We save this. We go to stage. The card doesn't look great. Obviously, the way it's painted is very poorly painted. But when you switch to the Karma CPU, let me just bring it up here. The lighting the lighting improves everything. And this is the great thing about Karma in Houdini. Let me switch to Solaris. When you learn Houdini, you must learn Karma in Solaris. Houdini is essentially doing what Blender did with Cycles, and that's why Blender is such a great option if you don't want to simulate anything. Cycles in Blender is amazing. It's a free renderer, very much like Karma is. But Karma is, I think it's much better than Cycles. It's miles ahead of Cycles. And the lighting quality in Houdini is just amazing. Now I'm using an HDRI. I'm using a dome light. I'm adding some. I'm adding materials to only the particles, not to the card. So this is how it looks. And if we just go here, this is how it looks with the simulation. And you can tell it's a pretty much real-time. It's a pretty much real-time renderer, Karma. If you have a decent rig, mine is a decent laptop. It's not great, but it's okay. And I'm not even using XPU, mainly because it's not production ready. But XPU is much faster than the CPU engine, simply because it uses the GPU and the CPU at the same time. So this is the final simulation, and let's take a look at the render. Let me just go back to Houdini GL, render and play, load disk files. Let's load these in. So I decided to animate the card with some noise. It shakes. There you go. And at some point it'll turn around. There you go, and explode. And that's about it. That's my Hearthstone card simulation in Houdini. I'm pretty sure I could have textured the particles. Give them some different color variations. Make it much better and realistic, but I played with the settings and this is what I came up with. Yeah. So bottom line is, from now on I'll be using only Houdini. Everything was made in Houdini, including the texture painting. So I'm not looking back. Blender, most likely I'll be using it for compositing. I think Blender has a great compositor implemented, but and I'm saying this because I never used Nuke or DaVinci Resolve, so I'm pretty sure there are better options out there. But I'm familiar with Blender, and that works for me. So, but mostly I'll be using Houdini. I think if it's worth learning this in the long run, and I'll be starting a series and just document my learning process in Houdini. Essentially, that's what I'm doing, and that's what I'll be doing. I want to learn Vex. I just couldn't find a good place to start using Vex, and the reason I want to learn Vex is because I prefer to program things rather than working with nodes. I find nodes to be very, very confusing. Doing visual coding with nodes is just very confusing. I cannot wrap my head around that. To give you guys an example, I have a programming background. This is a game that I built using C++ and OpenGL from scratch. I built my own renderer, my own engine, and if we run this, I'm just going to give you an example. All these assets were made in Blender. It's a card game that I was working on, and yeah, I mean everything made from scratch using C++. So learning Vex for me, it's not that. I mean, I've seen some Vex here and there, and it's very easy. The hardest thing about Vex is that I'm ignorant about it. I just don't know what functions do in Vex. I don't know what certain words mean. So I need to start somewhere. So if you guys have any recommendations about good learning paths for Vex, please do let me know, and I'll start learning that. And yeah, this is it. I'll be uploading the final render at the end of this video. You will see it, and I'll see you guys in the next project. Thank you for watching.